Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to a second chance. My name is Philip Jones, kidney transplant recipient.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who needs kidney disease coaching, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com.
Awesome. We are here joined by two wonderful, extraordinary women today. It's International Women's Month, so it couldn't have been a better day to have this interview. Sharon, Denise, can you go ahead and introduce yourselves for us, please?
Sure, I'll start. Thanks so much for having us. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm Sharyn. I'm the founder and executive director of an organization called DOVE, which stands for Donor Outreach for Veterans. It's a nonprofit 501c3. I founded in 2020 with the goal of increasing access to living kidney donation for U.S. veterans in need. I am a transplant professional. I've worked for 25 years, both in the private sector centers and helped to launch a kidney program in the VA healthcare system in 2015. But Dove is a standalone nonprofit, and I try to help veterans regardless of where they get their care. And today is a beautiful day because we just helped to facilitate our 27th veteran transplant today, and so we're growing steadily, and it's exciting.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Denise Brownlee. I have been a part of Dove since February of 2022 when I first found out about Dove that I could donate my kidney to a veteran. And after 9 months of working through that process, I finally donated my kidney on November 15th of 2022 to a mom that was still raising teenagers. And Sharyn and Dove was a tremendous support for me through that whole entire process. And I did a little bit of volunteering and that through that time frame as I was waiting. And then I say about maybe a month and a half ago, Sharyn kind of brought me on the team, and now I get to be like a recipient coordinator. I get to work with the veterans and things, calling them and following up with them. And Sharon's kind of training me and teaching me how to do that, and I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's really good.
So let's start off with these two questions. I'll be switching off from here on, but um, Denise, what was your reason for wanting to become an organ donor? And Sharon, what was your reason for wanting to advocate for living donors?
Well, I guess did you ask me first? The whole crazy thing is probably about, I don't know, say within the past 10 years, I had heard that you could be a living kidney donor and thought to myself, if I ever knew of somebody that needed one, I would do it in a heartbeat if I had an opportunity to help save somebody's life. Never gave it any more thought until I picked up a magazine called Newsmax in February of 2022. And I happened to see an article about Dove and a recent donor in there. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is it. So I immediately filled out the form. Actually, I just to back up a little bit, our oldest son and our youngest son are both Marine veterans. My father is an Air Force veteran, and my father-in-law is an Army veteran. So we come from a family of veterans. But I have to say, even if I did not have veterans in my family, I still would have done it. It just kind of makes it, I think, a little bit sweeter to be able to give back. And there was no stopping me, kind of doing it. I just was totally felt led to do it. And like I said, Sharyn was a tremendous help getting me through the process.
And to piggyback on that and answer your question to me, I'm also very proud to say I'm a kidney donor as well. So after being a professional for many years, this past summer, I became a patient and was one of the Dove donors. So can share that perspective as well. But it's truly something that I believe in, and I wouldn't I wouldn't believe in it for anyone else to do if I myself didn't consider it. And what I love to share is how much donors get from the experience of donating. We know recipients benefit from being transplanted, but donors also benefit from being able to so meaningfully improve the life of someone. And um, my theory in starting Dove is that, we have to figure out a way to raise awareness that living kidney donation is safe and it's an option for many people to consider. But unless people feel a connection to who they donate to, people aren't learning about it. So the whole concept of Dove is that, take a subgroup out of the list of over 97,000 people are waiting for a kidney. So my community that I'm focused on helping are veterans. There's 2,000. And I'm hoping that raising awareness about this subgroup is going to tap into the interest of people who otherwise wouldn't have learned about kidney donation unless they felt an affinity to helping us a group, somebody within a group that they could change the life of. And that was my theory, that I said, the veteran ecosystem is vast, and the general public's interest in helping veterans is also vast. And so I thought, can I tap into that to try to encourage more people to learn about donation? And I'm so happy to say that it is happening. I've screened over 620 people since we started Dove. And donors are not only veterans themselves, donors are people like Denise who may come from military families and feel a connection to veterans. And then many donors are just people who want to help a veteran. So, and they're flying all across the country in order to do so.
Awesome. Let me ask you, and let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. Sharyn, how did you get into the transplant world anyway? You told me you're a coordinator. So let's start back from the beginning.
Well, I'm actually a social worker. I started as a dialysis social worker right after I got my master's in social work and landed my first job in a dialysis center at Mount Sinai in New York, and then stayed there for most of 18 years.
Okay.
But I morphed into different roles and helped patients along the continuum of their care. So from dialysis to transplant, and from recipients to donors, really getting a comprehensive view of the total picture of treatment for kidney patients. And working with kidney donors really touched into something special, that I just knew I was in the right place for me. To be able to change somebody's life so dramatically, and to work with patients who feel so ill with their chronic kidney disease, and then to really see a transformation and a renewal of their life after the gift of an organ donation. There's really little that can compare as far as work satisfaction. So I get to meet the most incredible warriors who are living with chronic disease, and the most incredible, kindness from the donors. So it's all a wonderful experience.
Yeah, that's awesome, man, to see how your life took a whole perspective around, the whole circle from being the social worker to now on the gurney giving a kidney. That's a big jump. You know what I mean? That's a big one. So, but this question goes to both you guys. Before you guys became donors, did you have any apprehension of whatsoever, like right before you get on right before you was about to give the kidney? Denise, you can start with that, and then Sharyn, you can say yours.
No, I personally didn't. I've had surgery before, so I kind of had an idea of what it was, and I've birthed 5 children too. So,
Okay.
you just kind of have that idea of a little bit as to what to expect. So no, I just have to say for me personally, from start to finish, it was something I was going to do. There wasn't anything that was going to stop me. unless it came down from the very tippy top that said there was no way nobody was going to take me. So, and that didn't happen. But like I said, once again, that was a lot of Sharyn's helping and coaching me, kind of getting through multiple centers to find one that eventually did everything they possibly could to test me to make sure they felt good with that. But no, I personally did not. But I have to say, it's been a long time since I've had surgery. And man, I was surprised. These nerve blockers they give you these days, that was absolutely, it was an amazing thing. I had my gallbladder out when back, when you stayed in the hospital for a week, and I've got like a 5 or 6 inch scar now. And from giving my kidney, it was nothing. I mean, comparison, it was no comparison. But yeah, I think technology is just so great. Yeah. And the advancements in the medical world is just amazing. And no, but even if it was going to be more painful, it was well worth the pain, because that pain was going to go away in a few weeks. And to be able to put somebody back on the right track and get their health back, it is a minimal price to pay.
Right.
Sharyn, so you said
hold on, Sharyn. Hold on, Sharyn. That
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I have a tremendous fear of flying, and I know everybody says how irrational that is. But if you were to take my blood pressure when I'm going on the most recent flight to Florida, compared to my blood pressure when I was getting on the warm bed gurney, they put a warm blanket on for you. I was cool as a cucumber for that, but my blood pressure would have been like, 200 over 100 or whatever on an airplane. So it's all relative. I had complete trust in the process. And that's from behind the scenes that I have complete trust, because I know all the work that's done. Kidney donor teams aren't going to clear anyone who they don't feel is very safe. In fact, a lot of donors get frustrated because they say they're too cautious and I'll take a risk. But I really felt like, as every donor should, and as every loved one of a donor should, because sometimes it's the donor that's cool about it, but it's their family that's freaking out that they're doing this. And I think that I trust in the process. I trust in how thorough it was. And I knew that it was going to be okay. And I knew that the risk factors were minuscule compared to, other things. There's of course always risks. But I just didn't feel like they impacted me at all. I was excited, and of course a little nervous, but that's all normal. I was very excited.
Great. Go ahead, Phil.
So you said that you guys are celebrating your 27th transplant. That's incredible to see the work that you all are doing within your organization. When you hear that number, I mean, because 27 inside of 2 years or longer is 3 years. I'm sorry, yeah, it's 2023. Yeah, my math is off. It's a non-school day for me, so my brain's not working. How does that make you feel in what you're providing in the service that you're providing for veterans?
It's very validating, and it's I left a very secure career in transplant administration and big hospital settings in order to launch this nonprofit. I said, I turned 50 and I just said, screw it. I want to prove that this would work. And I've supported organizations that do community directed donations, like Renewal is a very successful organization that has mentored me, always thinking that concept makes sense, that there are many people who want to help. They don't know how, and they don't learn if they don't feel a connection to the issue. And if we just do a general outreach campaign saying there are 100,000 people waiting, it doesn't always compel people to act. I think sometimes it makes people feel overwhelmed. But my belief is, when you break things down and into community sizes, then communities can be part of the solution. And we can start identifying other communities where we can replicate this. So 27 is emblematic. And again, this is without a paid staff. This is me working out of Montclair, New Jersey, my home, and doing a lot of these connections. If I can do this with very limited resources, just imagine what can happen with additional resources. And so I think I, call that the proof of concept. So now we're really trying to get some significant funding so we can begin to expand in a way that can be meaningful to help more veterans and perhaps mentor other organizations that may want to follow suit.
Awesome. That's wonderful. This question is for Denise. Denise, when you talk to people now and tell them that you're a donor, how do people perceive you? I mean, do they look at you like, wow, or anything like that? Or what's go ahead.
They do, almost to the point of being uncomfortable. To me, it's just like they really kind of tend to put you up there on a pedestal, which kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable in a way, because for me, it was, I didn't feel like it was, I understand what they're saying. I get it. But for me personally, it was just I don't know, it was just an easy thing for me to do. It was just a very natural thing for me to do. And and I guess the biggest thing, one thing I kind of wanted to kind of just say, kind of piggyback off what Sharyn was saying. I know for me personally, you talk about the whole community thing. When I first found out about Dove and just getting on the website and then just looking at the faces, face after face after face of all these men and women. And now there's a lot more since, I look back in February, there's probably twice as many. But just the faces, that is what I think Sharyn is kind of saying. And what works about it is, we all know, when people become a human being, there's more people are more apt to help. But like she said, when a statistic, 100,000 people or even 2,000 veterans, it's smaller than 100,000. But when you start to see 50 to 100 veterans' faces, and you hear their story and you see their name and you see their family, and I think it's an amazing thing. But I think what is really cool too is Sharyn had a company that did a video for her, and it was on recipients and donor. And I personally think that has got to be one of the most moving things that I have, seen, was just how Victor, the recipient, just the tearing up when he talked about the life change, and and it's just everything, and how Kim, his donor. And I think that's the culmination of what Dove does, is it impacts people's lives on both sides, and she's exactly right. Those of us that donate are impacted too. You're connected with these people that you have helped. And I think that it is true. I mean, I'm super excited to be a part of this whole process, because I personally, she gets this funding and we're able to get out there and get more of the word out there, this thing is going to blow up. That's just kind of how I see it. And the little bit that I've started helping out the recipients, they're coming out of the woodwork, and if we can get the donor side, more people to find out about it, I think the donors will come out of the woodwork too.
Sharyn, when you hear Denise talk about, when people, because I've seen this also, when you see people be organ donors, they get this pedestal style, greeting. How can we make, giving organs the norm, where everybody is like okay with it? We're just not like, oh, you did this great thing. We know it's great, but how do we make it like comfortable, where everybody should be able to be feeling good, where they can just give a kidney? Not saying they shouldn't be, you guys are definitely appreciated, but how do we make it a more of a normal thing? That's the question I have for you.
Well, the more the donors talk about how much they get out of it, that we don't feel like we're heroes, that we, there's selfish aspects to see helping somebody else. I feel like you're not allowed to just, be a giver. You have to have a receiver in order for it to be reciprocated. And we all have to learn that lesson at different times in our lives. but also very important to get behind policy changes that are happening now too, that normalize kidney donation. Right now, there's a bunch of organizations, Waitlist Zero, the National Kidney Foundation, like NKDO. There's a bunch of organizations that are doing huge amount of advocacy and work to protect donors, so donors don't have to worry about lack of insurance coverage, or being denied life insurance coverage, and get a set amount of reimbursement for the expenses that they incur. Right now, through Dove, we make sure that the donor expenses, the non-medical expenses, are covered, but it shouldn't be so hodgepodgey
Right.
for a donor to help someone. It should be just straightforward. Like, yes, you want to be a donor. We normalize that as a society. You get this amount of reimbursement to help cover it. No questions asked. It's covered for your evaluation and your surgery. So I think all of that has to do with the normalization of the process, which will make it so that, this all becomes part of a common kind of dialogue. Oh, you're a donor? Oh, me too.
Right. And not to normalize it like it's no big deal, because it's a very big deal. But again, we see, like Denise said, the pedestaling to the point where people feel like there's no way they can be one. You know what I'm talking about? That's the gap that we have right there. And that's the challenge right there. We want to streamline it, like you said, where they get the insurance, they get all, the great accolades, and it's easy for them to become donors. Because I know you've seen other people who probably want to be donors, and they might have to go through their own health issues where I got high blood pressure, they got this and that, and then they had these small little roadblocks. And sometimes some people as donors don't even get help by overcoming these small roadblocks to become a donor, so.
Yeah. And that's part of, the 27 transplants we've done. We're really, I don't just say community. We, like Denise, we have, if you look at our social media, you'll see Team 9 congratulates Team 27, we're all still connected. And the veteran recipients take great pride in reaching out to mentor veterans who are waiting, and to, because waiting, there are some veterans who work with Dove who get transplanted within 2 months. There's some, the one we did today, he was one of our first to register. It's been 3 years. So there's no, there's no prediction of how long all of this takes. We try to say you're just not alone, because, I still, as a transplant professional, don't understand that we put so much of the responsibility on the chronically ill patient to go out and find their own kidney. Like, the most important component of their wellness is a kidney. And you leave a transplant center oftentimes with them being very pessimistic. They'll say, well, you're either going to wait 5 years for a kidney and you might not survive, or go out and find your own donor. And I think many people leave feeling completely overwhelmed. And there are many organizations that want to help in the campaign, but doing the outreach is only a piece of it. Like, we know we're working with people who can't go back to their own communities and ask for help, because their own communities have high risk factors and make it very difficult to find donors. Right. So that's the other component of Dove, is going beyond someone's immediate community and broadening it. So the community is across the country. It's across, racial divides and so forth. And that's what makes it so impactful as well.
Awesome.
All right, this has been a great interview. We're going to go to a commercial real quick, and we'll come back and ask some more questions. Welcome back to a second chance. So my question is for Denise. So you said that you always considered being an organ donor, but you didn't know where to start. Did you find a starting point, or was Dove that starting point for you?
Dove was that starting point. It's probably one of those, a lot of times you'll see in a newspaper or something where a daughter has given to a mother or like some kind of a family member or something like that. And I don't even remember where I found out you could be a living kidney donor. So, yeah, never really gave it too much thought. Thought if I ever heard of a family member or somebody that I knew needed one, I would totally do it. And then when I saw that magazine article, that was the only avenue I needed to find, and that put me right where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Sharon, so you've been in the civilian and VA transplant space. What do you see? Where do you see differences in each area?
Okay. Well, the VA kidney system is a lot different than the non-VA system. When you're a veteran, you usually are going to be referred internally to one of the VA transplant centers that. And now I think Washington, D.C., Georgetown, MedStar is going to be the 9th VA kidney transplant program. So, regardless of where you live or get your primary care at a VA hospital, they're usually going to refer you to one of those VA transplant centers across the country. So, so that offers some challenges to access for kidney care as well. If you have to really travel great distances in order to get listed more easily on a transplant list. And now they've expanded their coverage recently to enable people to get community care, transplant, and living donation. So that's hopefully going to help increase transplant rates as well, or options for veterans. So it's well known that the transplant rates in the VA system are lower compared to the transplant rates for living donors in the private sector centers. So, and then I really want to just encourage all people who are waiting for a kidney transplant to be dual list whenever you can. And dual listing is not only good for you to get increased chances maybe of deceased organ donors, but dual listing is important too to increase your chances of finding living donors. Denise is proof of this, but there are some kidney donor programs that decline a donor on certain issues that other programs would accept a donor.
Mhm.
And I don't think, in my opinion, there's enough awareness that recipients have to ask their transplant centers, how many living donors do you do? What is your average time span for a donor evaluation? Would you work up more than one donor at a time for me? Um, or do you participate in paired exchange programs? So if I had an incompatible donor who wasn't well matched to me but was healthy to donate, can they still help me? Recipients, patients have to ask these questions because it's the difference between having a living donor or not. And I think you really want to choose centers that have a strong living donor program and who don't mind you asking these kinds of questions.
I totally agree with what you just said right there. That goes back to the education part right there. There's a lot of times that people just don't know these questions. You don't know what you don't know. So therefore, that's why what you guys do and what other, you know, nonprofits like yourself do and what we do is we try to educate the people so they can ask these questions, so they can understand about payer donation, about some of these transplant centers, just like you said. I was working with a person who was going to a transplant center and they didn't want to work with them because they said they were obese, while another one took them. And I told them right then and there that that's why you have to find out which one of these centers do what, where and what and everything, because all of them have a different concept of what they feel is healthy. And that's big and that's very, very important. So I just wanted to stress that. I'm glad you said that, Sharyn, because that is so important. Getting educated on what's going on and getting in these other centers, that is very, very important.
Yeah, I'd also like to say there's advocacy that needs to happen as a donor also. And I
Yes.
think, Sharyn will attest to the fact there are some centers that are a little bit more proactive, maybe a little bit
Hmm.
more informative or whatever the case may be. And I just know through my process, I actually ended up at three different centers. And even though the first one was a pretty good experience, it was my very first experience. And I happen to be a pretty proactive person. And I think sometimes it's just saying, okay, yeah, do I have to sit around and wait and wait and wait for months for them to call me? No. I mean, the idea, and I think that's where Dove also comes into play, because there's an advocacy for the recipient and there's also an advocacy for the donor. And like I said, I can't explain and, tell you how much that Sharyn support through my 9-month process, because I didn't know certain things either.
Right.
And, sometimes a center needs to be encouraged a little bit more to go the route that you want to go. And for Sharyn to say, Denise, yes, it is okay to ask that. Yes, Denise, you're fine with this direction. And it was just kind of coaching me as a donor too, because I just remember at one point Sharyn said to she said, Denise, I think most people would have given up by now. And I think what happens sometimes with donors is they want to do it, but if you're not, and if you're not thoroughly committed to doing this, you're going to bow out when it starts to
Yeah.
get a little difficult. And I understand. I mean, it's not an easy process at times.
Right.
Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. But it's just having an advocate for a donor to stay in the process, ask the right questions, and be proactive. It helps that donation happen more quickly.
I totally agree, Denise, because sometimes when you run into these roadblocks and you want to be a giver, these roadblocks, you be like, forget it, dang, I gotta go through all this, and it feels like these roadblocks are
Yeah.
just coming up back and forth, and that's where it's so important. That's why when we have people like Sharyn who can coach you, because you probably came into her and was like, hey, this happened, and she could just be like, okay, chill out. This is how we're gonna take
Yeah.
this, and we're gonna go through this process, and she just guides you through it, and that's where the coaching is so important because.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you get that big flare up, she just calms it down. She puts the fire out real easy and lets you go your way and things like that. But
Right.
yeah, I think that's very important with the coaching. Go ahead, Phil.
So Denise, what I want to know is, are you still in touch with your recipient?
I am. I
Awesome.
am.
How's she
Uh,
doing?
she's doing great. Yeah, there was a little bit of a time frame where they thought maybe she was going to have to up her medicine again, but that all seems to be, slight reject. It's actually her second kidney. Her sister gave her first kidney, and then, a process, and then she needed a second one. So I am actually her second kidney, and that. But yeah, it just she's kind of quiet and things, and so I just kind of call her every now and then, and we touch base and just see how she's doing, see how the kids are doing. And I have to say, at Christmas time, she sent me an hourglass, really pretty hourglass, and just put a little plaque on it, how thankful she was that I gave her more time for herself and more time for her kids and things. Of course, it's sitting on my shelf, out in the dining room and that. So yeah, there's just a connection, and I'm excited to hopefully at one point actually find out who actually got my kidney, because like Sharyn said, we were in an exchange. I
Okay.
didn't match Chiquita. And so, yeah, and that's how Sharyn helped me get through this whole process. Is I wanted to give on behalf of her. We went into the NKR, and so it was a payback kidney. I'm an O donor, so they got a payback kidney and things. So, and it was great. We were actually able to be at Walter Reed at the hospital at the same time, which was a miracle. Really wanted that to happen. So we got to meet each other. But I don't know who actually got my kidney. I hope at some point that I will be able to meet that person too. And it's kind of cool how you get to help two people. Chiquita
Yeah.
got her kidney because I gave mine, and somebody else actually got it. So yeah,
Right.
it's a lovely process. I mean, I just am thrilled to death to be a part of this whole this whole process. And
Phil knows this about me, but I was in the sixth incompatible transplant that was ever done in the world. And National Geographic did a documentary on me when I was in mine. So I'm not bragging, just telling you. Yeah. So I understand the process. National Geographic followed me around for over 60 days in the hospital. So I understand the process big time.
wow. Okay.
So you got a kidney from a donor that wasn't blood type compatible to you? That's what happened?
Well, I had a donor and she wasn't compatible to me, so what they did was put us in the swap and everything.
Oh,
That's
okay. So you
it.
were what? Okay, I didn't know if you were
Yeah.
actually on a protocol to get an incompatible donor directly. So,
Right. I got you. Well, I did at first. It was going to be like that because are you familiar with plasmapheresis?
mhm.
Yeah, I hold the record at John Hopkins. I did over 55 treatments.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. Everybody, and that's funny because I talked to them a couple of months ago, and they were like, "You still hold the record up here." I'm like, I don't want anybody to try to break that record.
And that's how they found a match for you, because they lowered your antibody level and were able
It was
to.
crazy. It was crazy how they did it. They lowered them down all the way, and then what happened is my titers kept on bouncing back up. So eventually they had to find me an exact perfect kidney. And you got to see the documentary. It's on our website at
Okay,
kidneycarecoaches.com. And
Uh,
it explained everything to you
I will
because
watch that.
yeah, it's pretty remarkable. As you know, even when I look at it myself, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Just like Denise said earlier, technology is amazing when it comes to the transplant area. We're starting to see so many things. You know, Phil and I have done. We did reports on when they did the xeno transplants, and they're doing all different types of transplants. The project that's going on in Northern California right now with the artificial kidney, these things like that. So there's a lot of great things coming down the pipeline for transplant recipients, and not just kidney, but all types: heart, lung, liver, and every pancreas, and all those things. So
Yeah,
it's a good time right now to be a
yeah.
patient or whatever. Go
it's
ahead, Phil.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Uh, so Denise, I want to ask you how did you and your family feel when your boys said they wanted to serve? I know you said you have a long line of family members who served, and that's just like mine. I was talking to Sharon earlier, and I have a long list of relatives that have served in the armed forces. So, how did that make you? Because even me as a kidney transplant recipient, I wanted to serve. I tried to go that route, and when I got to the health exam of it, they were like, "Nah, this ain't gonna work." it was like you ain't gonna make it, son. So I was like, because I was still in great shape. I was still athletic, played sports and everything, even after my transplant and everything else. But they just they weren't gonna take that chance, which I understand completely. But it just felt like I had to take that chance and try, because I wanted to follow my grandfather, for my late uncles, my fathers, some cousins that I have that are currently in and who have been in at the same time. So, how did that make yourself and your family feel when they made that decision?
Oh my. Well, we were definitely behind them, that's for sure. But I'll tell you what, to go down, our oldest son is about 11 years older than our youngest son. So when our oldest son went through boot camp and graduation and everything, our youngest was he was maybe 8, 9, something like that. And I'll tell you what, there is something so powerful at being at graduation when you got all these Marines lined up and they're marching around and you got the music and you got the flag. I mean, it's no prouder moment, or one of the proudest, I shouldn't say no prouder, but one of the proudest moments for a parent to see your child, become a Marine, because that's what they were. And then when our youngest went through, it was the same thing, and we were always supportive, never had any, concerns and things. Now our oldest son did a year in Iraq. And so at Camp Fallujah, now that was a little, kept your eye to the sky, and in the news, and our youngest kind of was overseas for a while, but just nothing more than we just proud of them for serving their country. And yeah. That also was a lovely thing too.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I want to touch on one thing. You mentioned them being overseas, and this is something that myself and Tafara look deeply into when it comes to transplant recipients. But how are they dealing with this? I know being away from family in general, certain distances can weigh on you. How are they dealing with this mentally? Being that far away from family or being in the situations that they're in.
Yeah, they're both out right now, so they're not in the military at the moment. So they
Oh, okay.
both have already served their time and have moved on in that. So yeah, and our oldest was in. It was before FaceTime and all that. It was the telephone delay and things. Now our youngest was totally different. When he went, the technology there for video chatting was there, and it was a totally different experience. I just can't imagine the older veterans when letters were the way that you used to communicate. The military, the
Right.
technology just totally changed things too for that experience in a variety of different ways. But yeah, but either way, anytime your family member is overseas and away, but you stay connected and you pray, a lot, and just yeah. So it was fine.
All right. Let's Cook, you got anything?
I do not have any more questions, man. This was an awesome interview. Learned some things and got to give a Dove much love, man. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the armed forces, for the veterans and stuff. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations to keep up the good work.
Thank you. And I think we can end on a nice statistic about women, since you're honoring women today at International Women's Day. It is 70% of the donors through Dove are women. So I know that's no surprise, because I think last time I checked the the UNOS registrations, most kidney donors are women. I think it's like 65%. So a shout out to my fellow ladies for being badass.
Yes, to the fullest. I agree. I agree. Shout out, because both of my donors were women. My sister was my first, and my second was my neighbor. So yeah, both women. And I'm like, they got the big kahunas to step it up. I give you guys much love, because men, we're lacking in that department. We got to step it up, fellas.
Definitely, definitely.
And I think it might be something, women are such nurturers too, that you guys give just so much that, they will give part of their bodies for somebody else to thrive. And man, what more could you say about somebody who does something like that, man? Shoot, my hat goes off. Right.
So let's end here. Sharon, Denise, let everybody know where they can contact you at through Dove, through social media, all that great stuff.
Please, you can get on our mailing list and update list on our website at Dove Transplant, DOVE transplant.org. If you want to learn about kidney donation, there's a simple tab you can complete that just kind of will set up a meeting with one of our mentors and you to learn about donation. If you want to be a volunteer or get involved and kidney donation is not your thing, there's so many different things we can engage you in doing to support our mission and raise awareness. And also follow us on social media. We're on Instagram at Dove Transplant is our handle. And Dove Transplant is on Facebook. So for sure, follow us, and we try to share our updates and give some heartfelt stories of an inspiration to anyone who's following.
Awesome work. Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, very much for joining us today. We
And I
greatly
just hold
appreciate.
on. We got a shout out to Jill. Jill just got cleared. I see that we have one comment. Let's wish Jill our best, because she just got cleared. She's going to be Dove Donor 28 at the end of
Congratulations,
March.
Jill.
Jill's
Awesome.
donating out of North Dakota. So you get them, Jill.
So, hey, how can we promote more men to become donors? You know, I mean, I don't know. We're starting to see all these women pull up. I mean, pull up and do what's up. How can we, you know, I mean, how can we get more men out here? Maybe we might need to do a campaign on that or something. She's from Nebraska, she says.
Sorry.
Cornhuskers. We understand the Cornhuskers, Big Ten world. We understand that.
I don't know. To be continued. Let's have a for men, men's
Yeah, I mean,
international day.
exactly, for real. We need
We'll do one. We
right.
We have some phenomenal male donors as well that I know would love to speak out on our behalf and on donations behalf. So let's do it. Let's go get the men.
For real, man. This is hey, we need to Phil, we need to do something about this. Yeah, for real, because
I've already started that conversation, sir.
Yeah, well, good. We started to see it. But congratulations again. Congratulations, Jill. She says go Big Red. We're all for that. The Cornhuskers is in the house. But thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
All right.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Bye-bye.
So tomorrow we'll be having our World Kidney Day event. We'll have Dr. Sharyn Brookings on. She'll be talking about a year review of kidney advancements, as well as we'll be having a cookie demonstration from Chef Alana Carroll, who's also a kidney transplant recipient. And so definitely looking forward to that event tomorrow. We definitely have another nutritional video coming out probably within the next week. We come out with our first one on Tuesday. Please go check it out. It's how to take care of your gout through your diet for CKD patients. So definitely go check out that video on the Second Chance Media on YouTube. Other than that, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you again, Sharyn. Thank you, Denise, for joining us today. We greatly appreciate yourself and your time. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.
Peace.